This footage, which is at this point and in our minds without a single doubt not of this world, and for which I'm at a complete loss of words, was captured in Jacksonville, Florida after a resident happened to look out of her window and see what she described as a black structure in the sky outside of her living room window in Jacksonville. Now, she stated throughout her email correspondence with us that she was watching TV in her home and had gotten up to head into her kitchen, and in doing so passed by a window that is on the way to her kitchen adjacent from the living room, and at first glance thought that she was looking at a kite of some sort. However, she saw no one outside, no kids, no adults, from what she could see, flying a kite, no people outside, period, that would lead her to believe that this was some sort of man-made object being controlled on the ground. And as we can see, and as that she was completely stunned to find out, this UFO is definitely not a kite, because as you can see from the footage, what we have here is a large black stationary craft. Not kite, not drone, craft. The craft is not moving, or from what we can see and analyze in the footage and going frame by frame, looks as if it slightly moves or tilts just barely. And now this is the black main craft. There are two crafts in this, or, well, one craft, which is the main black one, and then a second craft, or multiple crafts, in the form of these gray metallic objects. The black craft looks to move slightly toward the end of the footage. And then we have these, what we're going to call secondary craft, in the form of these three smaller metallic gray looking orbs that at the beginning of the video are attached or look to be attached to the black craft, but can clearly be seen from the very start of the footage are moving slightly away from the craft, possibly a foot or two. We're not sure, but these orbs will move away from the craft slightly and then move back to their original positions. And it looks like this happens at least twice at the beginning of the video of her shooting this footage, where these three orb-looking structures are slightly moving away, back and forth to the black craft, after which, just seconds later, you can see these things completely detach from this main craft and fly what looks possibly many meters or yards away from this thing. We're not sure. We don't know how far away this craft is or how big it is, but it does look large. And then finally, these orbs, after moving completely away from the craft in a straight line, they don't go up or down. Height-wise, they are in the same position as they're moving away. And they look as if they're being controlled by this black craft, and at the end of which, once finally moving away, these things begin moving and circling one another and look as if to fly backwards and away from the camera. They look as if they begin moving and circling one another and look as if they fly backwards and up away from the camera before going completely out of sight. At the same time that these orbs are moving away from this craft and flying into the distance, or possibly just disappearing, the black UFO itself begins to completely dissolve into the skies, looking to also cloak itself, if that's even what it's doing, to the point where this thing completely disappears from the sky, along with these smaller secondary orbs that had detached from this thing just moments before. Now, when I watched this, I couldn't believe my eyes, and the people that I've shown it to couldn't believe it either, because it is unbelievable, because we are not used to seeing craft like this, or at least we're not as used to seeing it, because from what I can gather, the sightings of these UFOs are happening at such a high rate lately that I've never seen before in years past. It is almost every day that we get a handful of emails from people all over the United States and the world detailing their own UFO sightings, sending in images and video, wanting our analysis and our thoughts. And these are people who have exhausted every option they've had or tried to get their footage out, from sending it in to their local and national news sources to calling their local police, which do nothing. And finally, going online and sending it around to guys like us who they will quickly find out will get this footage out and who actually care about getting it out. Because if it's one thing we've learned, the mainstream media does not care about publishing these UFO sightings, because the mainstream media are controlled by the government, and the government wants us dumbed down, and they don't want the public knowing that these alien craft exist. So what will happen is that when the mainstream media does publish something, and 99% of the time they don't, 99% of the time they will not respond to you if you send them your footage. What they will respond to and post nationally are these UFO sightings that are laughable and completely debunkable, because they want to make a mockery out of the research we do. And the people who control the media, the same people who troll our videos, try to get us taken down, make threats to us, and try to make this research a laughingstock, they don't want this footage out there, and they don't want you watching this footage that you're watching right now. And I'm sure that they'll be here momentarily in the comments trying to stir something up. But, it's nothing we haven't dealt with or seen before. But I digress. The woman stated that she quickly ran, once seeing the object, to the back bedroom where she had left her phone earlier that day. She hurried back to the window and began filming immediately. She stated that she zoomed in as far as possible, as we can see in the video, and that she tried to keep the phone steady as possible. But of course, as we all know, when we are at maximum zoom, especially when using a handheld camera or a phone camera, even the most subtle movements are amplified tenfold, even though it may feel like you're holding it steady. And in this particular case, we think that she did a great job of getting a pretty steady shot of this thing based on the fact that she was zoomed in at full, and the fact that she kept the object in center of the frame and a few times zoomed out for context, where we can see some of the trees in the background, which are moving in the wind. The clouds behind the craft are moving from left to right throughout the video and behind the craft. All of this, which is indicative of a fairly windy day, and yet this craft does not move from its position once. It's completely stationary and locked in to its little spot there in the sky, and it does not look like any drone we've seen before, except for maybe the alien kind, which is what we're dealing with here. I mean, let's just be frank here, alright? Let's be practical. This UFO is not man-made. This UFO has characteristics that have nothing to do and no use with any type of human application. And it's simply mind-blowing. It's literally out of this world. And the source who captured the footage, who has politely asked us not to give out her name due to the fact that she's an older woman. I mean, she's not too old, but she's a middle-aged woman. She has a family, and she respects her privacy, so we're going to respect her privacy. And she does not want to have 10,000 people looking her up and attempting to contact her or ringing her phone off the hook. She also does not want certain people out there to know who she is, and by people out there, I'm talking about the same people who do not want you to watch this footage, the same people who do not want this footage played in national media. The source has stated to us that she has seen plenty of UFOs in her lifetime, and so far, she's taken a very keen interest on the research that we are all doing, and ufology research in general, and has stated that she completely believes that we are not alone in the universe, despite her very religious background and upbringing. And with evidence like this and the data that's out there now, I can't blame her. You'd have to be nuts not to believe that we're alone. So I completely understand where she's coming from, and looking at this thing, all I know to say is that, and I know I say this in every UFO video we've posted, but this is one of the most, if not the single best pieces of evidence we've seen or posted on, or witnessed in general. And have had the pleasure of posting, and that's because these sightings that we are getting and seeing are becoming much more frequent, and each one is better than the next, each one is clearer than the next. And as I've said before, I've never seen so many sightings as I have this year. It's completely mind-blowing how far we've all come and how much material we've all documented in this search, and I'm talking about all of us in the ufology field, all of the researchers out there, all of the YouTubers out there, all of the bloggers out there, and I'm simply put lost for words here, especially when it comes to this video, this craft, and all I can tell you is watch it, share it, support the work that we do and that all of the researchers out there do, subscribe to the channel, and above all else, keep your cameras at the ready, keep your eyes to the skies, and keep sending in your stories and footage, because it means a lot and it goes toward the bigger and ultimate goal of exposing the truth. So check back with us. You can find our contact information down in the video description, and stay tuned for much more. We'll see you later, guys.